today we got some good fun. Here we are with this bowl that I cleaned the other day, and I bought a bunch of succulents here, including this cactus, what's not technically a succulent. I got some succulent soil, some gravel, and some sand. That's just calcium carbonate sand, it's ugly. Anyways, I'm going to use that for something else. I'll show you later. Well, let's just start with creating a false bottom. Okay, we're going to start off by making the false bottom here. I've just got some gravel here, and this is a couple mils across. Just some nice normal size gravel. And then I've got window screen mesh. You can also use any other type of fine mesh that will keep the soil from going into the false bottom. And let's start making the false bottom. Alright, we got the false bottom in. And what a false bottom is going to do for this terrarium is create a pocket of air to keep the soil at a consistent humidity and moisture content. Especially for this one, it's extremely important to have the right moisture content because succulents are very sensitive to moisture. And that's why I use this large gravel here, so it keeps it arid pretty well in there. And next thing is to mix up our soil and then add it on top of our false bottom. Alright, to make your soil here, you're going to do 2 parts of gardening soil. In this case, I'm just going to use succulent soil. Also just use any type of gardening soil. And then 2 parts sand. I'm just using this calcium carbonate sand because I don't want to use it for anything else. It's wider than a piece of paper, and I'm just going to be mixing it into the substrate in this build, so it won't be very noticeable. And then you also do 1 part perlite. This has already got perlite in it. Could have more than I would like, but I do not have perlite right now, so I recommend getting more perlite or pumice. But I think that should do pretty well. You can also use, instead of gardening soil, core. Core is shredded coconut husk. But I wouldn't recommend that personally because it holds a lot of moisture and it could potentially cause your succulent's roots to rot. So, 2 parts of this, 2 parts sands, 1 part perlite. Alright, so we got this all mixed up here, and what we're going to do here is we're going to get this wet and then squeeze a good amount of the water out of it so it's just slightly moist, and you don't want it sopping wet, but you also don't want it like super dry like it is now because that's not going to do very well for planting. Anyways, let's do that real quick. Alright, so we've moistened this soil here, and what we're looking for is a really gritty soil that doesn't clump up very easily. And we want to make sure this is damp, not really wet. So you just squeeze it. You should squeeze all of the substrate, so it's just damp. I already said that, but just a reminder, you don't want your soil to be sopping wet. You may have seen me add activated carbon to this soil. And I just did that because I do not own a culture of arid springtails to keep control of any bacteria or ammonia buildup in the soil. So, let's put this in the terrarium and make a second batch. Okay, so we've got all of our soil added here, and you can see that I sloped it all towards the back of the terrarium That's just to add height to the terrarium and a sense of depth. And this soil doesn't need to be incredibly deep because succulents don't have very deep roots. But do make sure that you have a container that has a relatively wide open mouth to help with aeration, because the key with succulents and cacti is to keep good aeration and make sure everything dries out properly and doesn't stay moist for too long, because that will negatively affect your plants. Alright, let's start the planting process, the best part of this all. You can see I have bought too many plants for this small terrarium. That's okay, because some of these could be propagated to smaller ones, and then I just have extra plants for other things. And I rather have had bought too many plants than not enough. But we're going to start with the tallest plant, which is this Crassula back here, and this Senecio. This one's a blue variety, but you can see when you get it wet or rub it, it loses a little bit of that blue, but that will come back. So, and then this Crassula, so I think it's a campfire Crassula. See, there's a little bit of hard water on here. Anyways, it gets these red tips, and it's got this nice green at the bottom, and the like reddish orange tips. So let's plant those first and see which one we want. I think I'm gonna go with this one. Alrighty, so we've got our plants in here that I want. Got the sedum here. This will spread out more. So as you can see, I've left room for growth around it. Same with most of the plants here. This one, I didn't leave as much room between these because these are just going to grow up versus out. And the next step is to put a cap on top of this substrate. Not necessary, but I would recommend it because it looks much nicer. But that's your choice. Alright, so we got our sand cap on here, and the next thing I'm gonna do is get some smaller little pebbles here to add some more texture and more detail. Alright, so that's it for this video. I really enjoyed this. This looks really nice, and it should look much nicer as it grows in. So these two are a little too symmetrical, but everything looks pretty nice, and I like this plant coming out of the top here. Please comment below what you think about it, and if you enjoyed this video, like and consider subscribing.